I have a green screen now. I can do so many things with this, like make it blue. That's it. That's all I know how to do. What's up, guys? I'm back with new hair, and yes, ladies, I am single. And thankfully my friend Kasha isn't, because he'd probably take all the girls anyways. I haven't actually posted a lot in the last little while because of exams and I'm lazy. But the wait is finally over. I've gotten so many messages from people saying, I really want you to bring your channel back, so here I am. I've actually heard millions of my Muslim fans are going on hunger strikes where they don't eat like all day for like the past couple weeks actually. So don't worry guys, I'm back. You can stop fasting, maybe slow it down a little. Today we're going to be talking about The Lion King. That's not what I meant. Fuck you, history. Today we're actually going to be talking about The Lion King, which, as some of you might know, is actually an animated rendition of Shakespeare's Hamlet. But once again, suck my ass, knowledge. Disney's doing this whole live-action remake thing of a bunch of their old classic animated films, and the one that people seem to be most positive towards and most looking forward to is The Lion King. So I'm here to completely suck the life out of anyone watching because I don't like this idea and I thrive off of negativity. I think the best place to start with this topic is with the original Lion King and talking about how good it was. Disney has made some great animated movies. This one's amazing, this one's amazing, this one's amazing, this one's amazing, this one brought out people's weird kinks. But the original Lion King is thought to be one of the best, if not the best animated movie in this era of Disney animated films. And why is that exactly? Well, to sum it up in a way that doesn't make this video like an hour long, The Lion King merges a deep, well-crafted, Shakespearean-inspired dramatic storyline with fun and interesting characters that are really well voice acted, and it ties that story nicely to the theme of the circle of life, which enriches what would otherwise have been a novel idea to have the main storyline revolve around lions and other animals, all while having a delicate balance of humor and drama that is beautifully stylized and creative visually, oftentimes paired with fantastical music numbers. It's a story that kids can love and learn a lot from, while adults can easily relate to some of the themes of wanting to throw your cares away and live with no worries for the rest of your days, but eventually realizing the importance of responsibility and how abandoning that responsibility can greatly affect other people. On top of that, it has some great dialogue with some timeless jokes, fun sequences, and a wonderful creative villain that really stands out and truly does some very evil things while still ending up as a beloved character, who got a very fitting ending in a unique and wonderfully crafted area with lots of symbolism behind it. Basically, the movie is amazing and is my second favorite Disney movie, right behind Aladdin, which is my personal favorite, so you could probably guess how I feel about that remake. I will, however, admit that while I do prefer Aladdin personally, I wholeheartedly believe that The Lion King is a much superior title, objectively speaking. I really, really love this movie, and it is, no joke, a movie that I have seen over 100 times. It was really the only movie that my siblings and I watched for a year and a half. So now let's talk about why I'm not really a big fan of this remake that's coming out. One thing I should mention is that this video is coming out before The Lion King remake actually comes out in theaters, and is actually coming before the Aladdin remake as well, hopefully. It's at least being written and recorded before then, so most of this is prediction-based, but it's based on stuff that we've already seen about the movie. First of all, let me just say that the only medium in which I think remakes are actually important and have a purpose of existing is in video games. You take a game that came out a few generations ago and you bring it to the modern day with actual sizable changes and improvements. Look at the Resident Evil 2 remake, the graphical jump, the change from the fixed camera angles to an over-the-shoulder view, the revamped gameplay. You might still prefer the original Resident Evil 2 to the remake, but you can't deny that there's just objectively better things like the visuals and the camera angles and stuff that I just mentioned that are just, in terms of the way the technology is advanced, I mean, it's just better.
I should also mention right here that there's also the extra blockade in video games of consoles where something might be on the PS1 and you really want to play it, but you don't have a PS1, you only have a PS4, so then they remake it on the PS4 and it's like, hey, I can play this. Just thought I should mention that extra thing, since it's actually one of the main reasons why these video game remakes are made.
Although it's true that not all remakes completely nail this idea, some of them are just bad, and some of them can just be remasters, which admittedly can be a little bit cash grabby. If you don't know the difference between a remaster and a remake, by the way, a remaster is basically like your girlfriend putting on makeup, while a remake is like you killing your girlfriend and then bringing in a superior version of that girlfriend. While it has its hits and misses, a video game remake has a base element of improvement that is basically inherent with the idea. The difference with video games and movies is that while a video game from 25 years ago looked like this, an animated movie that came out 25 years ago look like this. You can genuinely look at the original Lion King and the new Lion King side by side and not know which one is objectively better. Yes, the remake is a lot more photorealistic because of the advancement in technology, but it doesn't have the same style and flair that the original did, and that didn't even look bad to begin with. It has so much style and personality over here that is not detracted from objectively bad visuals like a video game from 25 years ago would have, so you can't really say it has the same improvements as this. Before I get too much into the animation, because I have a lot to say about that, I first want to mention that my main criticism with this whole thing is that the new Lion King looks like it's about to be equal to or worse than all the elements from the original Lion King. And if that's the case, why not watch the original Lion King? But I know you're thinking, you can't just say it's worse, you have to prove it. Well, that's what I'm about to do. When I was talking about things that are great about the movie, the original movie, I mentioned the plot, the songs, and stuff like that. And most of that is through and through going to be the same thing in this remake. Simba's not going to see Mufasa die and then fall into the goddamn sunken place. I mean, he's still going to go and find Timon and Pumbaa and Hakuna Matata all over the place. All of the plot points and even the songs should end up being roughly the same. I mean, they did it in Beauty and the Beast, and they seem to be doing the same thing over here. So I can say that with a fair amount of certainty. So most of that is just going to end up being at the same level as the original, because it's the same plot. So most of the things that are great about the original, you can probably say a lot of the same things will be just as great with the new one. It's just the issue is because this is a remake, it just being the same thing is no longer good enough. We already got a version of The Lion King that had those great points. You need those great points if you're remaking it, but you need to have the rest of it be a lot better in order to justify its existence. So most of the stuff that's left that can be better is really just the voice acting, the style, and the animation. I'll get voice acting out of the way real quick. It's probably going to be good. They have a lot of A-list celebrities on here, and even though like a lot of them aren't known for voice acting, I mean, John Oliver and Beyonce are known for completely different things than voice acting, I still think they'll do a stellar job. That being said, the original voice acting was so fantastic and it embodied the characters so well that there's really no tier above that for the new cast to go. It's just whether or not they can match it or not. And again, we get to this issue where everything is just about equal, but it's not as good here because it's not as fresh as the original was. But now to talk about something that I think is just objectively worse, despite it coming off at surface level as better. The animation. I have things to say about the animation. I love how I say that after like 10 minutes of me talking about random bullshit. I have two main problems with the animation. One is the realistic approach that it's going for, and two is the utter lack of style and flair compared to the original. First one's first, and this one bugs me a little bit less, but I'm still gonna rant about it. The Lion King remake looks too realistic. And I know what you're thinking, I mean, that's the stupidest complaint I've ever heard. No, she sucked my dick too well. That's the stupidest complaint you've ever heard. The reason I think the realism here is an issue is because of what this movie is at its core. A movie about talking animals intrinsically works better in an animated style. You create these characters that clearly represent the animal, but they don't fool you into thinking that's the actual animal. That is a pretend lion. It is pretend. So when it does pretend things, like talking, it makes sense. But then when you get something that looks like a real lion, and it starts talking, that's fucking weird. Because you know what a lion is. You know what it looks like. This looks exactly like a lion, but it's fucking talking, and I know they don't talk. In one case, you build a fantasy world and you do fantastical things, and in the other case, you try and convince people that this is the real world and then do fantastical things. It's all about the world you're trying to build. You can have something that looks realistic, is in a realistic setting, and do crazy things, but it depends on how you set up that world. You look at Star Wars and people look like real people, and all of a sudden they have lightsabers and everything, and you're like, what the heck, why do they have a big glow stick as a weapon? But it does make sense in that world because they have set it up as a space opera. It's taking place in not the Earth, so it makes sense that they have these high-tech crazy weapons. You make a world that is realistic, but then also has elements of the fantastical, and then you can get away with fantastical things. If you take a film or a TV show where something is trying to be as realistic to the real world as possible, like Suits, and halfway through they all become Jedis, that's going to confuse you, because that's not how the story was set up. The Lion King gives no indication that this is some sort of fantastical world. It just says these animals are talking now, they look like real animals, and they're talking. Look at this candle. I know a candle doesn't fucking talk, but here's an animated movie about a candle talking. You know what? Whatever, I don't care. But then you show me this, and it freaks me the fuck out. That is horrifying, and they must have known it because in this case, the candle's face is on the actual candle, and in this case, it's not. Wanna know why? Because that would be fucking terrifying! It's because I know a candle isn't alive. If you show a candle a puppy, it won't be happy. If you show a candle the first 15 minutes up, it won't be sad. If you show a candle a picture of Zac Efron, he won't immediately fall in love. Those are like the 3 criteria of being alive, and it doesn't meet any of them. So why the fuck am I watching a talking candle? You know how weird it would be if humans just barked throughout an entire movie? I know humans don't bark. Why the fuck are they barking and going about their daily lives as fucking doctors and shit? If you wanted to make a crazy premise about humans turning into dogs, then sure, go for it. Make them bark. I don't give a shit. But if you're gonna try and have a realistic approach to things and then have every human bark, it just doesn't make sense. I feel like Disney's clearly aware of this because the trailer that they have for the Lion King remake is 1 minute and 48 seconds long, and less than 2 seconds of it is actual dialogue matched with the movement of their lips. There's a lot of narration and dialogue throughout the entire trailer, but only 2 seconds, or a little under 2 seconds actually, of it is matched with them moving their mouths. And even those are like fragments of sentences.
Spend their lives in the dark. And never.
Overall, I feel like this
Kinda
just
like your
is a
lack of
case
style.
They were so busy
Fucking
trying to
idiot.
figure out how they could make
Oh, wait, fuck,
this
that's me. Why am I
amazing
making fun of
animation
myself?
technique work, and they didn't stop to think whether that was actually the best call to make. Which segues into my next point, my final point, which is the lack of style. Maybe my favorite part in any animated movie ever, right up there with the Genie song from Aladdin, is the song Be Prepared, the song that Scar sings when he's revealing his master plan to all of his hyena friends. The song is so good, it has clever lyrics that interject Scar talking about killing his brother with genuinely funny moments sprinkled in to keep the levity, but most importantly, it is amazing to look at. The setting, the green that reflects Scar's eyes and gives a menacing tone, the marching hyenas in this canyon with this yellow overpowering the whole shot, the red that cracks through from the craters in the ground that mixes with the yellow that was just used a second ago to combine in the form of fire as Scar is lifted up by the force of this lava that is shooting parts of the ground upwards. Meanwhile, in the remake, they can't even make Scar himself look interesting. I can ask anyone who has ever seen this movie what character this is, and they will immediately be able to tell me. It is such a distinct and interesting look for a villain that stands out. And yet again, that pursuit of trying to be as realistic as possible has made Scar look so bland and boring in comparison. If Scar's villain song in this remake is even half as good as it was in the original, I will punch myself in the dick 20 times on camera. Not sure why I said that, but we're moving on. Take another scene from the original, which I actually have clips to compare here. The Simba transitioning from his childhood to adulthood scene. This is the best time transition scene I've seen in any movie personally, or at least the best one I can remember. It doesn't stop the beautiful animation to have a title card that is all black that says 20 years later or anything like that. Instead, what it does is it seamlessly transitions Simba from his young self to his older self. Look at the lush greens, the beautiful waterfall, the bright moon that shines through as they wave their heads around, not caring about the world, which is what this aging process is supposed to mean. It's him Hakuna Matateing past everything in life. Look how boring this is. Look! They're just walking forwards. It doesn't seem to look like it means anything. It's so much less heart and color. You can't even see them here. It's just so bland and devoid of personality. They're no longer waving their heads around, acting like they don't care about anything. Instead, it's just, well, this scene was in the original, so I guess we have to remake it in the most bland way we possibly can. Beauty and the Beast did the same thing. If you actually take out the character models in the original Beauty and the Beast and tell the entire story based off of just the colors that are present, you would be able to follow basically everything that's going on. Look at how this dark mansion becomes more and more filled with light as Belle and Beast start bonding, ending in this beautifully lit room with a bright yellow accented with a nice blue. Not just colors that show how much happier and beautiful this place looks now that Beast is no longer alone, but it also matches up with the things that Belle and Beast are wearing, using indirect storytelling to show how these two really do work well together. And now look at this version. The camera work isn't as impressive since it's using actual cameras rather than an interesting animation technique to create a cool camera sweep, and in comparison, it is entirely stripped of color. One of the best parts of this scene in the original. The Lion King remake is just shaping up to be a more boring way of watching The Lion King. It doesn't have nearly as many aspects that made the original so good in the first place. It's like you were gonna buy a car and a guy was like, hey, I'll sell this to you and I'll give you a free TV on top of it. And you're like, sick. And then somebody else comes along and he's like, hey, I'll give you the same car, but I won't give you the TV, and you gotta pay 6 times the amount. Because keep in mind, watching the original Lion King would also be a lot cheaper because you have to buy theater tickets to watch this new one. With that said, I've talked way too much on this. I just wanted it out there because this is something that I'm really passionate about. I love a lot of the old Disney movies, and I kind of just wanted to talk about it in this video. I want to do a lot more video essays like this in the future, so hopefully you guys enjoyed, even if you don't entirely agree with me here. With that said, I'm gonna sign off and probably not post for another 2 months. Peace.